All right, Last Jedi, spoiler talk. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Turn this shit off if you haven't seen it. Spoilers. Anyway, as you can see, I'm a fan of everything geeky. So you got this Lord of the Rings poster over here. We got all three of them over there. But anyway, let's focus on this behind me. I couldn't get a good angle. On this thing to save my damn life. But whatever. I feel like this angle's better than the last one anyway. And I don't film over here, obviously. I do the horror movie reviews, but this is Star Wars. Gotta talk about it. First thing I want to talk about for sure is the unbelievable hate that this movie is getting. I am a frequent member of many Star Wars groups online. You know, I watch all sorts of Star Wars shows on YouTube and whatever. And the hate for this film is, I don't mind when people dislike a movie or they are talking, talking about it and being civil and being like, here's the problems I had with it. But as usual, people are bullying people. They are saying their opinions like they're fact. Like, here's what it is, and you're a fucking idiot if you don't agree with me. That's some bullshit, dude. And I hate to be that person who's like, well, The Force Awakens, all you did was bitch about how the same it was, and now all you're bitching about is how different this one was. It's like, I honestly think that, and this is just my own, thought on this whole thing, is we had 2 years to come up with all these different theories and all these different ways that we thought, Rey's parents were going to be this, and, Snoke was going to be this, and Mace Windu, really? Did you ever think that was really going to happen? And DJ is going to be Ezra, and I think people got so fucking, wrapped up in all of this shit that when none of them were right and all of them were like uneventful, I suppose, they felt robbed. They felt cheated. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, I thought Snoke was going to mean something, and I thought Rey's parents were going to be a Kenobi, or she's not a Skywalker. What the fuck? So I really feel a ton of the hate in this movie is purely because people fucking hate everything these days. But in addition to that, people had preconceived ideas and notions and guesses, and none of them were right, and they felt stupid and or cheated. But come on, man. Like, you didn't like the movie, that's fine. But picking on people because they didn't is bullshit. And shut the fuck up. I have seen all sorts of ridiculous shit and so many insane claims. But anyway, I don't want to waste any more time on that. I'm sure this video itself will have fucking hate comments and threads. I hope not, dude, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's get into the movie itself. One thing I keep hearing was the line, I got a bad feeling about this used in the movie, and I have seen that it is supposedly BB-8 when, he's talking to Poe and Poe says, only positive beeps. It makes sense that it was BB-8 in that moment, and that will be something revealed later because everyone's like, oh my god, where was it? And we all, we obviously can't speak droid like Finn. I don't speak that. But I'm inclined to believe that. I'm fine with them doing away with that. I don't need to hear the same fucking line in every movie, but it's a tradition, so I'm not horribly opposed to it. It's one of those kind of things where it's like, there it is, and it's almost a little bit of an eye roll at this point, but I know it's a little bit of fan service, and that's never a terrible thing. But we get the opening crawl, which is really good. You always wait for that opening crawl. Like, what's it going to say? What are these 3 paragraphs going to be? And I actually thought it'd be a tad different, and I think everyone thought this entire movie was going to be different. I definitely did. I mean, I knew going into this it was going to be different, and people, Rian Johnson wanted to take this in a new direction, and they have that line in the trailer. It's like, this isn't going to go the way you think it's going to go, and I think that was just kind of a message, like a warning almost, like, this ain't going the way you think it's, everything you've guessed is wrong. This whole, like, the Snoke theory sucks stuff. I'm glad that they went this way. But we get this opening space battle with Poe and the bombers, and when the bombers were really cool. I really like the design of those. Very, World War II, as usual. There's a lot of World War II references throughout the whole series, the Germans and the Japanese and whatnot. And so this is just another one of those things, and I really like that. And Rose's sister is which Rose's sister and her are illustrated in this book right here, Cobalt Squadron. I just got it. I've read about a chapter so far, so I don't really have the lowdown on this one yet. But so far, it's fine. I mean, I'm very much looking forward to that. But I really like that. And then Poe going and flying off and taking down all of the guns on this ship was pretty damn cool. That whole scene with Hux and him calling in and being like, "What? I can't hear you." I know a lot of people are down on the humor in this movie. Like, it's too humorous. I don't know. I felt like the humor was really well, executed, because they front loaded this movie with a ton of humor, because like the second half of this movie is so dark and so drained of any kind of humorous moments that I feel like all the levity in the beginning softens that blow of all the shit to come. So I don't know. I don't feel like the humor is misplaced in this, and all that shit worked for me. That Poe line with Hux, and even Hux getting on it. You didn't really get any humor with Hux in the last movie, and you get a decent amount in this one. And I liked it. So yeah, Paige's death, Rose's sister, was heartfelt. I mean, when you think that it just was going to pass her and she wasn't going to get it. I mean, I thought that was just going to be the tone of the movie. When she caught it, I mean, I almost feel like that's one of the only hopeful moments in this movie. This movie is very dark, and it leaves you in a dark place in a lot of places. So, and we get Finn, who kind of wakes up. I didn't know how long Finn was going to be out of this movie. I kind of was sitting there like, okay, is Finn going to be, are they going to tease him waking up eventually? And no, he's just back. He's in it. He's walking out. He's, the water's coming out, or what the hell that shit is. And he's just like instantly like, where's Rey? I like that, he's basically waking up a second later in his mind from that lightsaber fight with Kylo. And it's like instantly right back, like Finn is back. Where's Rey? He still doesn't know where his allegiances lie. He doesn't know if he wants to be a resistance fighter or not. So he goes, he grabs his shit, and he tries to escape in the escape pod to go after Rey, after he gets, the beacon, and Rose stops him, and they're friends. I really liked Rose and Finn and their chemistry and whatnot. I thought that was really good. And I know a lot of people are saying like this whole Kanto Bight thing was pointless to the story, but that's actually kind of what I liked about it, was that none of this movie goes the way that you think it's going to go. Like the Kanto Bight stuff, they go to get this slicer. That whole scene with Maz, that was weird. That was a silly scene where she's like fighting, and that just looked like a video game cut sequence. Whatever. That was silly. That was just a way to throw Maz in. I wish they would have come up with a better reason, but whatever. It doesn't matter. She sends him off to Kanto Bight to get to this slicer who can come back, and they go for that slicer. And when we saw that Rose, I thought for sure, like, oh, they're going to think it's that guy, but it's actually going to be DJ, Benicio del Toro's character. And when they go in the jail, they're like, oh, there he is. They're going to find out this is actually him at some point. And it never was. Like, they just so happened to grab a random slicer and say, fuck it. Like, we don't have any time to screw around. This guy seems like he's up to the task and whatnot. And I loved DJ. I love Benicio del Toro's character in this movie. There's so many things to take from him out of this. I really liked his stutter. I really liked that he wasn't the guy that they were going for, as I said. I really like that part in it, because we don't really get to see the side of people just on the ground that are watching the First Order and the Resistance, or the Rebellion and the Empire, or whatever. Like, we don't get their viewpoint on things. Like, this guy just lives in that world where everyone's, in the line of fire of both sides of this, and he shows them, like, you think that You think that you haven't done anything wrong? Like, look at this. These guys sell guns to both sides. Like, I don't see the difference between you two. Like, you kill them, they're going to kill you, and then they'll come back. I love that idea, and the fact that he sells them out and then, like, doesn't come back. He doesn't have his Han Solo moment where he's like, blow up this thing, kid, and let's get out of here. Like, he doesn't have that moment. Even when the little chicken wire, the ATST thing comes in, and it's BB-8 under there. I mean, at first you're like, oh shit, okay, I guess, DJ came back for him and it was like ripped off and you're like, oh, it's BB-8. And I know a lot of people didn't like that, but I don't mind it. I feel like BB-8's obviously the new R2-D2, and R2-D2 is always the one that saved the day in the original trilogy, so why not have another character like that here? I don't need the exact replica or anything, but I mean, it was fine. I thought yes, it looked kind of silly, and yes, it was almost like a kid moment, but it didn't take me out of it at all. I was like, yeah, BB-8, kick their fucking ass. But I just liked that DJ didn't do anything to help them. He was like, no, I'm out, and he was gone. That was awesome. Now, this movie definitely reminds me, and I'm guessing Rian Johnson took a little bit of that from here, and that's fine. I mean, but this is very Battlestar Galactica. One of those, those first couple episodes when they just keep jumping, and then there's a certain amount of time before, they catch up with them. That's very, very reminiscent here, and I can only imagine that he borrowed from that storyline, which is fine. I think that was cool because this is Star Wars, and this whole thing takes place in the stars, in space. I mean, almost most of it is out in space. We don't go to many islands on this. The one scene, and I think this is where a lot of people got lost, even those people I was referring to before, even if they were on board, I do feel like a lot of people are taken out of this movie almost instantly with Leia's death, not death, force use. And that sucks because, for one, I do wish that that's how Leia had died. And if it wasn't that, she should have been the one to, turn the Raddus around and shoot it through the supremacy in in light speed instead of Holdo. Those would have been two great deaths for her. Either one. Like, the first one is grim as fuck, and I was like, whoa, this movie really is going bold. This is no shit. I mean, she sucked her out into space, and Admiral Akbar died in there too, and they barely even mention it. It's just like a passing, like, Akbar's dead, and you're like, oh shit, that's right, he was in there. Holy fuck, Admiral Akbar's dead after all of this? Like, he's a huge character. Jesus Christ, that was rough, man, for Akbar. He deserved better. But I thought for sure Leia was dead. And then I was like, I was with her and my girlfriend. She was just like, oh my God, is Leia dead? And I was like, oh yeah, she's dead. And when they show her and she's like twitching the finger and moving, and I was like, what? Like, what the fuck is about to happen? And she like used the Force. And Leia is a character that we've been wanting to see use the Force forever. And I feel like this was a missed opportunity here because although this has been done before in canon, Kanan Jarrus did it, Plo Koon did it, Darth Vader did it in Lords of the Sith book. I mean, it has been done. Now, Vader obviously is wearing a suit, so he can survive the vacuum of space. But Kanan and Plo Koon as well, he wears a breathing apparatus. But Kanan's out in there, and also actually Dr. Aphra does it as well for a sec. So people have survived the vacuum of space before in Star Wars. This is fucking Star Wars, okay? It's taking this science and being like, that's not possible. It's like, well, it's not possible to jump to light speed to planets this far away and then come back here and time still be the same over here. It's been like 1,000 years since you've been gone. So don't think about that kind of shit. That's silly. But it's the way it looked that was stupid. And that's what took it out. Once she was back in the ship and she put her hand on the glass and whatnot, that looked fine. Because she's weightless in space. So when Luke goes to grab his lightsaber when he's stuck up in the thing and he cuts the Wampa's arm off and whatever, that would take the same amount of force use to do what she did because she's weightless. So all she'd have to do is kind of lock onto something and pull it towards her and it would pull her towards it. So it wouldn't really take all that much force use. But we've been waiting for Leia to use the Force forever, and it's in this moment, and it was supposed to be like, oh shit, and some people had that reaction, of course, but I, like most people, were like, that looked dumb. It looked like a god or a witch or something flying across. It just didn't look right. And I almost wonder if, like, Carrie Fisher had died at that point, and that was like a CGI moment because they didn't have it. Whatever, I don't know, but it just didn't look good, and I feel like that hurt the movie a lot for people. It's something that it's like, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to, the next viewing, I haven't seen it again, unfortunately, but when I watched it that first time, I was just like, oh man, I hope this gets better with more viewings, and I think I will, because I'm a person that can look past a lot of shit, and that just, as I said, it just looked bad. So moving on from that. Now, of course, everyone had that moment where it was like, and I actually just totally thought this was going to happen right when it took place. But when Rey hands, Luke the saber, and that's the ending of The Force Awakens, and we're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? We've been waiting 2 years, and he just like throws it over his shoulder. It's a comedic moment, and I think that it hurt a lot of people's excitement and their expectations, because they were like, I waited 2 years for a gag, for them to throw it over his shoulders, and then Porgs to accidentally almost kill each other with it. And I get where they're coming from, but honestly, I don't feel like I know what else could have been done. Like, Luke doesn't want it. So, like, just dropping it on the ground, I don't know. Like, would it have had the same impact? Whatever. Like, the toss over the shoulder it's a gag, but at the same time, he's just like, nope, want nothing to do with this. So I feel it fits, because he really wants nothing to do with this. Like, he shut himself off from the Force completely. He does not want anything. He's on this island. He is a hermit. He is Yoda-fied at this point. He is done with this shit. I did like that there is a book called The Legends of Luke Skywalker. I think I have it out here. Where it's all tall tales, and but you can decipher what you think may or may not have actually happened. And there is one story in here where Luke goes to this planet, and this character teaches him about the tide, which is basically the Force, and she teaches him how to fish. And that's something that I absolutely believe is 100% true. And in this movie, he uses the spear, just like in it, to fish. And it was such a cool callback to that book. It's so nice and rewarding to just get little tiny touches of things within here. Like Holdo is in this book. Now, the character is pretty different, though, to be honest. Holdo, although I do think Laura Dern was awesome, and I really liked her character in the movie, and I liked what she ended up doing and whatnot, she's much different in here. In here, she's more like a Luna Lovegood, kind of awkward, quirky, weird character in this movie. Now, of course, people age and they get older and they're different, and that's fine, but I don't know. I would have liked to seen a little bit of the quirk remain from this. It felt like a little bit more of a, vindication for reading this. Kanto Bight, I think for me, getting back to that, the reason that I didn't mind it, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's completely pointless. I said that before, but I think one of the things, honestly, that helped me a lot was the Kanto Bight novel. Like, there was a lot of characters I was looking for, and I saw them, and it was exciting, and it was like, yeah, that guy and this guy, and and that's not fair for people who don't read this shit. So I get why people kind of did, but I liked Kanto Bight. I know I heard a lot of people saying it's a little too much like Earth, and I can see that. But it's a casino world. I mean, how else is it going to play out? It's a casino. I mean, there's going to be like basically a craps table. I mean, they're playing. There's slot machines. Whatever. What the fuck else do you think it's going to be like? So whatever. And the Fathiers, which they have a big chapter in here about, or a story in here about the Fathier races. It was cool to see them. I know people were comparing to like Harry Potter and those scenes being too Disney and too goofy. I liked it. I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, when they ran out of there and the kids helped them, and it felt like a good moment. I liked that they were chasing him, and that DJ came and took him and was just like, I want some money. And he took Rose's necklace that she has with Paige, and he gives it back, and you think that's going to be the moment where he turns to the good, and then he goes back, and it's like he's not good or bad. He just doesn't give a shit. He's just there for the money. He's the Han Solo without a heart. But yeah, I don't think the Kanto Bight stuff hurt at all. I'm not. It's not something I'm gonna like fast forward through or anything. I totally enjoyed it. Call me crazy. That's fine. I did like the reunion between Chewbacca and Luke, because when that door busts open and you think it's like, shit, did Rey just rip the doors off? And you're like, oh shit, that's Chewie. It's a great moment. It was like, wait, where's Han? And it was like, oh man, like that weight hit you. Like Luke doesn't know. He's been shut off from the Force. Like he's just finding out Han died. That's fucked up. And I like the funny scene with Rey, and she's training, she cuts the thing off, and the caretakers, she just keeps fucking their place up. The humor landed there for me for sure. The porgs, that scene with Chewie eating the porg, and them giving him the look of like, how could you do it? It's like, that shit killed me. That was one of the funniest fucking moments in the movie for me. And the porgs weren't overused. I know a lot of people were worried they were going to be the next Ewoks, which I don't have any problem with Ewoks, but I know a lot of people do, and they're barely in this movie. And when they are, they're always used effectively, and it's not just the same gag over and over. I thought they were super adorable. They're only in it maybe an accumulation of like 45 seconds to a minute. So definitely not overused, and when they are used, it's used well. And the whole like Kylo Rey connection thing, I love that, because not only do we get to see them interact and get to see their chemistry, but also it makes Rey question, where she's at. It makes us question, because he's like, why are we being connected? That immediately makes you think like, I knew it. I knew she was a Skywalker. She's Luke's kid or something. That's how they're able to do, because they're related. And then it was like, nope, it's just Snoke doing it to fuck with him. That was great. And then like Luke locks in and he sees her talking to Kylo. So Kylo was actually able to force project himself into that room. So even force projection had been used at this point in the movie. I haven't seen it before. This is a new thing, and I like that they're expanding the Force. I mean, the Force has so many different facilities and uses to it. I mean, when they go to different planets throughout all of the expanded universe, like they have all different kinds of the Force. When Yoda goes to this planet with all these kids, and they have their own version of it. And as I said, when Luke goes to this planet with fishermen, Jesus. They have their own interpretation of the Force, and they use it in different ways. So it's fine. Like, he went there, he went back to the first Jedi temples, and he found the original texts, and, real page turners, aren't they? That then opened it up to maybe some shit we haven't ever seen before, and that's fine. I mean, let's change it up, right? The Force Awakens is too much like the last one. This one, let's change it up. No, you don't like that? And this whole idea that Kylo Ren turned to the dark side because, Luke had a weak moment where he wanted to, stop him from becoming the next Vader. And of course, then fulfilled his own worst fears by creating the next Darth Vader in that moment of weakness and doubt. That's such a great idea. It's something I didn't expect at all. Like, I didn't know what to expect on that. I didn't know if they were going to explain why he turned. I thought it was just like Snoke, was whispering in his ear and got him to change, and he tried to kill everyone, and Luke got out of there and everyone was dead. And it was like, no. Luke tried to kill him in his sleep. And think about what Kylo or Ben Solo was thinking in that moment. Like, this motherfucker's about to betray me. So he's just lost. And you have to remember that in the book Bloodline here, 6 years before The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren finds out just through the pipeline that Darth Vader's his grandfather. I mean, they exposed that in the politics, and Leia and Han have never told him. He's off training with Luke to be a Jedi, and he finds out Darth Vader's and he feels betrayed. He's lied to. Like, why haven't I been told this? So then Luke turns on him too, so he doesn't feel like he can trust Leia. He doesn't feel like he can trust Han, his mom and his dad. He doesn't feel like he can trust his uncle Luke. He is lost. And so he gets angry and he lets this hate consume him, and we know what happens with that shit. So I thought it was just great stuff. Now getting back to Poe, I've also heard a lot of complaints about, like, why didn't Holdo just tell him the plan instead of keeping it from him? Well, I mean, in reality, sorry, but if you're in the military, or if you know anything about that, or if you have been around leaders, they don't tell you their plan. Like, you are supposed to follow orders and not question shit. That's just the chain of command right there. You've been demoted. You know, you're a captain now. Like, you're demoted. I don't need to answer to you. And that's just true of war and politics. Like, that's just, so for me, it was just one of those know your place moments. She didn't need to answer to this kid. Like, everyone sees Poe as like a main character of the movie, and he is, but in reality, in this ship, he's just one of many, many people on this, and he's getting lippy, and he's trying to say he knows what's up and what to do, and she's just like, get this guy off my deck. I got more shit to deal with right here. Leia's hurt. I just had to take over. I'm trying to figure out what the hell to do, and this kid's like in my face. I have a plan. My plan's good, and you know, Poe himself confirms that later. Like, oh shit, like that is a good plan. It's like, I don't need to answer to you, okay? Go back to your fucking post. You shouldn't be trying to stage a mutiny. You should be doing what you're told to do. And that's just a chain of command thing, as I said. So for me, it didn't affect it at all. It was like, Poe, come on, man, like, know your place. But I get where he was coming from, but the fans complaining about that, I don't think that they're thinking that through. But God, that scene where she turns the Raddus around and she shoots it through the fucking supremacy, that the way that was done, the sound design, all of that, especially like the same thing with like when Rey's talking to Kylo, the sound design on that's really cool, like the voices and all that, so cool. And when Rey like goes into that weird place where she's like, you know, snapping her fingers and it's going down the row, and then you think you're gonna see her parents, and then it morphs into one. You're like, what the fuck is it gonna be? Is it gonna be Kenobi? Is it gonna be, what is it? And then it's like, it's just her. But that sound design and the way that looked and the way she like took out all the Star Destroyers behind it and they all just like obliterated with the light, that was got to be one of the greatest moments in Star Wars history to me, and one of the coolest looking shots I've seen in forever. It was just stunned. It was like, and it was like silent, and everyone was like, and then it was like the, you know, like the Slave One makes that noise, had that same sound to it. That was so fucking cool, man. If I forget anything here, I mean, Jesus, I'm talking like crazy. So if I forget some stuff, definitely mention. I'll answer any questions. Now, the cameo, Yoda. Holy shit. It was one of these things where it was just like, Force goes through a reality. I mean, I was hoping to see Ewan McGregor, Liam Neeson. I mean, anyone could come back. I think Kenobi would have been the coolest thing for me. But Yoda makes the most sense to puppet. You don't have to worry about people bitching about, oh, why is Obi-Wan now younger? And he was an older one. It's like, well, I mean, look at Anakin in Return of the Jedi in the special editions versus the original. I guess, I don't know. You could change ages if you want, because Vader dies at one age, and now in canon, because of George Lucas, he's young again. So I don't know. I mean, you project whatever you are, I suppose. Now, I don't know about Liam Neeson because he's older than when he died, and I don't think you can do that. But, you know, CGI, they do that with all these movies now, Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America Civil War. So, yeah, but the Yoda thing was cool. I mean, he had some funny things. You know, his line about the real page turners, and then he blows up the tree, and you're like, oh, shit. And then later we see that Rey stole the books in the Millennium Falcon, and you're like, oh, like, Rey knows what's up. Rey knows what's up. Good joke. Good going. But yeah, I mean, seeing Yoda was super cool, obviously. And I mean, let's just talk about this throne room shit. Like, everything that happens in there is amazing. Like, everything to me was perfect. Like, every single thing that happens in Snoke's throne room is fucking awesome. I mean, come on. The fight between Rey and Kylo Ren and the Praetorian Guards, so cool. That lightsaber kill where she throws him the thing and he like turns it on for half a second, that's gotta be like the coolest kill in Star Wars ever. It's so badass. But like when he was going for that lightsaber, I thought for sure he was just throwing it to Rey. She was gonna catch it. They were gonna fight the Praetorian Guards. Somehow something was going to happen. It was going to distract them. They were going to run off together, and Snoke was going to chase them in the next movie, whatever. But when he cut him in half and he fell on the ground, and then later we see like his tongue on the ground, I'm like, that motherfucker's dead. Like, this ain't no Darth Maul, Clone Wars, let's give him robotic legs, spider fucking shit. This is dead. Like, Snoke is dead, okay, people? Snoke is dead. He ain't coming back. So... whoa, did I ever see that coming? I remember thinking, like, before the movie, it was like, wouldn't that be crazy if they killed Snoke? Yeah, but they'd never do it. They fucking did it. And that's it. That's what I was talking about earlier. I think people wanted Snoke to be Palpatine or Mace Windu or, his backstory to be so crazy. And I've come up with a billion different things. And it's like, oh my God, I wasted my life, coming up with ideas. And here we are. And it's like, come on, man. Like, that's awesome. I'm sorry. Like, let's get to the real villain of this movie, Kylo Ren. I love that you think he's turned good for that moment, and then it's like, no, he just wanted to kill his master, get Rey to be his Padawan, let everyone kill each other. He's just like, let the past die, let the First Order kill each other, let the fucking, rebellion. It's awesome. I love that shit. The Resistance, same shit. But I love that. I love that line of him just being like, let them kill each other. Let's go off together. We can, redo all of this and raid together. I love that shit. Awesome stuff. And she's just like, no way. And then we get the split of the ship and she's out of there. She takes, I've heard a lot of like, how the hell did she get on the Millennium Falcon and all this? Is like, she takes Snoke's ship. I mean, they say it in the movie, so if you missed it. I do love that when Kylo Ren is unconscious, that Hux actually takes his blaster for a second and is going to kill him and doesn't. And he wakes up and he like goes to put it away. The relationship between Hux and Kylo is hilarious and awesome. It's like little brothers, power struggles, cat and mouse, awesome stuff. Love it, love it, love it. And then, Captain Phasma. This is something where, we were all stoked about her in The Force Awakens, and she was underused for sure. And then they did the whole thing where she let down the shields to Starkiller Base, and people were like, well, she was supposed to be so cool, and all she did was fucking give up and give them in. And so they explained it in the comics, like, she blamed it on somebody else. And then in this book, Phasma, it just shows her as someone who will do anything to survive. She will kill anyone. She'll trade on anybody. And it made perfect sense. Like, I'm not dying for the First Order. Like, I will play and I will help them out as much as I can. But if it comes down to my life or theirs, fuck them. And that's what this book illustrates so well. It also illustrates what an incredible fighter she is. She lives on this like Mad Max, Fury Road type world where everyone just is trying to get by on resources, and they make like salve out of each other's dead bodies, and they basically are worth what they are in their fighting abilities. And the older you get, the weaker you become because you can't be as strong as a fighter. So it's like only the strong survive. She's the most like badass fucking killer on her planet. And so I wanted to see her kick some super ass here in this movie. And of course we didn't get it. But I mean, to be fair, she did beat Finn. And he got super lucky that this ship just so happened to be coming out of the hole. And she turned around and knocked her. And we got to see Gwendolyn Christie's eye for a second. So it was like, okay, so it is her under there. You never know what she was going to look like. But we kind of got to see her. So we can assume that it's just Gwendolyn Christie. That's her face. But is she dead? I think so, which is a shame. I wouldn't be shocked if she came back, but I do think she's dead because I think that was the vacuum of space under her. But hey, she's wearing a suit. Leia got out of it. Maybe she, whatever. No, I think she's dead, and that's a bummer because she could have been used better. I just don't think Rian Johnson had the time or knew how to use her. So I really do. I wish that we would have got to see more because basically what we saw in the trailer is almost what we got. Their fight was okay though, so nothing too bad. And moving on to Crate, this planet looked amazing. I love the ice foxes and all that stuff, and the the visuals of like the salt, just the crystals underneath, and then every time it looked like blood when they were walking. We get a quick cameo from Gareth Edwards here, the director of Rogue One, which is really cool. You have the ski speeders going out to meet the AT-M6s. That was cool, and Poe puts his foot through it. You can see how old these things are. That was pretty funny. I thought for sure that Finn was dead, absolutely. But then Rose saves him, and they have the cute little line. And I thought the line was great. It was very Star Wars, like, we're never going to win this killing what we hate. We were going to win this by saving what we love or whatever. And she kisses him. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. I've only seen the movie once. But that was cute. I mean, that's fine. I like their little connection. Was there enough time to explore their relationship where it was like, oh, I totally get why they're in love? I don't feel like she's in love with him, even though she says it. It's just like a crush. He's, he meant a lot to her sister, and she's just this lowly little girl that hangs out on the bottom of the ship and it's like never sees anything. And she's is around with this guy, and they go on an adventure together, and they save these fathiers, and they go and they try, and they almost die over here, and then they get here, and then they go, like, they did a lot together. Let's not fucking forget that. They went to planets, they went to ships, they got caught together, they thought they were going to die, they thought they were, fought this and that. So, I don't know. I feel like because the movie is only like 2.5 hours, like they were together a long time and they did a lot of shit together. So for her to have a big crush on him and in that moment just maybe say a word out of place like love, I mean, maybe she is in love with him. Who am I to say? It worked fine for me. It's cool to play Battlefront now after you've seen the movie and playing on Crate, and you're just like looking at everything like, I know what this is and I've been hearing it. It's so cool. It's so cool. And then Rey comes in the Falcon and is blowing the TIE fighters. That was a cool ass scene. And finally, the Luke thing. I mean, Luke coming and, projecting himself and their reunion with Leia. That was sweet to see. And he comes out and it gives you some hints that this is taking place since, Luke looks younger and he's holding a lightsaber that was recently just destroyed. And when Kylo Ren puts his foot back on the salt, it scrapes along and you see the red, and when Luke does it, nothing happens. And then when he brushes the shit off his shoulders, funny moment, but there's literally nothing on him. And their lightsabers never clash. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious, but in the moment you're just so in it, you don't even notice it. And then when it happens, you're like, wait a minute. And then it shows him up on a rock and you're like, oh shit, and it all starts kind of coming together. I should have caught it better than I did, but I didn't, and I'm willing to admit that. But yeah, I was so excited that happened, because I was like, yeah, Luke gets to live. And then Luke dies. And it was like, oh, but they kind of foreshadow that in the beginning, because he's like asking Rey how she could possibly be doing this. You can't do this. This would be, this would kill you. You don't have the strength for this yet. So he does it to a longer extent and more. So I feel like he wanted to go anyway, and it was his last little stand to get them out of there and save them. So it was just kind of his goodbye, and he gives the whole line that he gives to Rey earlier, like, everything you just said was wrong, and he's teaching her like his 3 lessons of why the Jedi should end. And then he says, I'm not the last Jedi, there will be another, she'll be the last Jedi, whatever. So she clearly is going to go off, and I'm guessing she's going to continue to keep teaching because she has the books. We get this parent lineage thing, which I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but I love that she's nobody. I love that she's nobody, because even though I love the original trilogy and things that set up in it, I don't like that in the previous Star Wars movies, like the original trilogy and even the prequel trilogy, that there's such an emphasis on like, you need to be related to somebody that we know that's a Force user, like a Skywalker or something, in order to be important. And it's like one of the greatest things about the original Star Wars is that you feel like a farm boy on a desert planet could be the hero of the rebellion, that a nobody has something special about him. And there's no explanation. It was before Darth Vader was his father. It was before anything. It was just fantasy. It was just like this dream of like, oh man, like I could be special too. But then as the movies kind of went on, it was like, well, unless your dad is Darth Vader, unless your dad is fucking Han Solo and Princess Leia, or well, Princess Leia is being mom, you're not special. And I love that Rey is just I don't think this is a misdirect. I absolutely think that her parents are, drunk junkers, and they sold her to get the fuck off the planet. Like, here you go, Unkar Plutt, take her. We want to get out of here. I love that shit. I love that she's nobody, because that just reinforces that whole original idea that anybody could be a Jedi. Anybody could kick ass and save the galaxy. And I think that last shot when the kid has the broomstick kid, whatever, that reinforces that, like, this is the new direction that we're taking with this. We're getting back to that idea. And I love that. I love that ending, where it's just like showing Rey. She has the books. He says she's going to be the one to take this on from here. She's going to probably train some new kids. There's kids out there who, he shows this symbol, and it's like, I'm the next Luke Skywalker, whatever. It's just fantastic. I mean, that kid's telling him the story of Luke Skywalker in the beginning. He feels that. I mean, it's like when you were a kid and you watched this Star Wars for the first time, and you were like, I'm going to be Luke Skywalker. Like, that's that kid at the end. He wants to be Luke Skywalker, and he can be. Not because he's fucking related to Obi-Wan Kenobi or Emperor Palpatine, but because everyone's special. That's the message of Star Wars, in my opinion. Anyway, all right. I'm sure I missed a few things here and there. I'm kind of, trying to think of things, but I think I talked enough. This is 40 freaking minutes now. I didn't think I was going to do it this long at all. But anyway, guys, any questions, please let me know. If anyone got through it, please tell me. Say, I watched all the way to the end. I'd love to hear that, because I almost feel like no one is still watching at this point. But if you are, that's awesome. And thank you for checking this out. Please, as I said, let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought about the movie. Don't hate on people in the comment threads. Don't fucking be a dick. It's so lame. Anyway, guys, all right. It is time for the Jedi to begin.